Housing News 360. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government mills 5 federal government for effective implementation of the newly approved 250 billion naira mortgage and real estate investment fund. MBAN said its members in mortgage banks and brokers were ready to ensure that the benefits reached the targeted Nigerians for the initiative. The association announced this in a statement yesterday in Abuja by its president, Ebilate Mark Yoroki, and its executive secretary, Dr. Adedeji Ajadi, in reaction to federal government's approval of the fund to address Nigeria's housing deficit. The federal government has hinted at its plan to fund delivery of 100 housing units to the poor in each of the nation's 774 local governments through voluntary donations from no fewer than 10% of the population. The said housing units are to be delivered under the proposed National Social Housing Fund, currently being worked out by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. Briefing newsmen at the State House Abuja, Minister of Housing and Urban Development Musa Dangiwa said the ministry had written to all stakeholders in government on how they intended to raise funds for the project. The minister also stressed that his advocacy for increased budgetary allocations for housing delivery has gained the support of the lawmakers in the National Assembly. The Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, Architect Ahmed Musa Dangiwa, has reiterated his ministry's commitment to fixing the existing gaps and making a historic difference in the housing and urban landscape of the country. The minister brought this to light in a meeting with a technical mission from the World Bank on land titling, registration and cadastre at the ministry's headquarters in Abuja.
Housing TV Africa, your first in housing development broadcasting.